Hey, it's Andre Johnson here with our Deal Finders Friday call. Here with our lead deal closer, Reese Pennington. How you doing, Reese?
I'm doing great, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so today we're going to have a discussion about some active seller marketing campaigns. Over the past few weeks, we've had some Deal Finders Friday calls with deal finders, active deal finders, with our deal VAs, with Reese, our lead deal closer, as well as myself, deal engineer. And so today we figured we would just have a one-on-one conversation with Reese and myself and kind of take a macro look at many of the campaigns that are going on in our Deal Finders funnel. And so for those of you that don't know, we have a cloud-based Deal Finders funnel, which is a cloud-based marketing platform that will allow you to automate your marketing to do more deals. And so we're going to take a look at some data, again, macro view from many direct-to-seller marketing campaigns that are underway right now. But before we get into that data, I really just want to touch on the market. And many of you may not be running active marketing campaigns right now. You may not don't run a campaign in a while and just curious about what's going on in the marketplace right now. And so I want to make this be engaging. I'm going to ask people to please say hello and introduce yourself. We're live right now on Facebook, live on YouTube. And so if you have a comment, go ahead and drop your comment there. I'll try to get to it. You can ask a question of me or Reese. But just to give you some context, right now, in the market, it's a market shift that's happening right now. And so I've had the privilege to have the experience to look back on a few different market cycles that I've been through as an investor. And I know one of the things that a lot of our funnel clients are starting to do is to target properties that have been on the MLS, for example, expired listings, withdrawn listings, canceled listings, and they're getting some good traction in terms of responses from those properties that were listed, and now the funnel clients are doing direct-to-seller marketing to those particular sellers. And so I know Reese is handling a lot of those appointments, those negotiating appointments. You're helping a lot of funnel clients with sales and negotiating in terms of getting properties under contract with creative strategies, seller financing, subject tos, et cetera. So before we get into the data and take a look at, again, some active campaigns that are running right now, really, Reese, want to get your insights on, what you're seeing from these conversations, because that's really, what the marketplace is about. I mean, you can look at the data, from macro level. You can talk about, the number of listings that are not on the market, that have been on the market a month ago, a year ago. You can talk about, the days on market maybe being a little longer in some markets. You can talk about all these macro factors, but really the best indication of exactly what sellers and buyers are experiencing is inside those conversations, right? It's what it's like to talk to a seller that is motivated, that maybe has some distress, financial or property distress, and just what their motivations are. How flexible are they with price and terms? And so those insights really go a long way. So Reese, want to kick it over to you to try to just give kind of a 50,000 foot view of what those conversations have been like with sellers in different markets, in different situations.
Yeah, absolutely. So a lot of the conversations that we've been having and seeing, we've been seeing actually an influx of people that are actually looking to sell their property. But we've also seen some people that are, in a situation that they might not have a whole lot of equity, where a cash offer might not fit for them. So we've been looking at really just trying to solve the issue that they have at hand, whether it is they're actually behind on their mortgage or they have some other family issues and they need to move. So where like we actually just locked up one in the Canton area, and this particular gentleman just owed way too much on his mortgage. The property really needed to be fixed up. He's actually been trying to sell it to investors for over a year, and a cash offer just wasn't really a good fit for him. So we were able to take over his payments, help him with some moving expenses and a little bit of cash down, and he was actually really thrilled. Because this was able to get him closer to his family that had actually been affected with COVID-19. So
do you recall what type of list that lead came from? Was it an absentee? Was it vacant?
So it was that particular list was he wasn't, it wasn't vacant, it wasn't an absentee. He actually wasn't behind on his mortgage. I think he ended up on probably a list that he might not have, should have been on, and
Okay.
it just ended up having a conversation. And it's really just about talking to those people, really finding out the issue that they're having and providing a solution.
Okay, so I know that you mentioned before we went live that you have a number of appointments later on today, and that one of our funnel clients have 3 calls in particular on your calendar. So can you kind of share what types of leads are coming in? Are you seeing people across the board asking for unrealistic top dollar? Are you seeing people that are trying to unload properties in good condition, or is it pretty much a lot of properties in distressed condition? Like, what are you seeing?
So we're actually seeing we're seeing a mix of both. Right now, the conversations we've been having today, we actually had a lot of people. So I actually had a conversation earlier today where a gentleman is trying to get out of a property that he just built new construction last year. And he's looking for us to buy it retail. He's actually more nervous to put it on the market because he's afraid it's going to sit. So he's looking to get a very specific cash number out of that deal in his equity, and is willing to let us possibly take over payments if we can structure something towards the cash that he needs. And we're actually seeing a lot of that. I have a call later today where a lady is extremely motivated. She needs to get out to LA and move. That's actually a call that'll happen in about an hour and a half. So I'm excited about that one as well. I believe that she's more so looking for a cash offer and just looking to liquidate quickly. So we're really seeing a lot of both.
All right, cool. So what I want to do, I want to pivot real quick. I want to take a look at one of our funnel clients' campaigns, and then we'll take a look at a macro level at many campaigns over the past 30 and also 60 days. So give me 1 second while I go ahead and pivot here. And we're going to go ahead and pivot and take a look. All right. Okay, we'll go ahead and add this. Okay, so we're taking a look right now at one of our active client accounts. I should say the activity from her account. And you can see that in the last, and this is going back to May 26th, so this is really just over a week and about 2 weeks, 10 days to 2 weeks. And you can see that we're looking at her inbound activity. And again, this campaign was run with the Deal Finders funnel. We're looking at inbound activity, inbound messages, inbound text messages, inbound calls. And what's noted down here are forms. And so that form description is a qualified lead. And I'm going to go ahead and blow this up just so you can see it a little better. And so it's really good to take a look at a campaign on an individualized basis, and then also to take a look at macro data as well. And so you can see here that this particular client, over the course of about a 10-day campaign, had on one day 36 inbound contacts. This day, May 29th, over 1,000 inbound contacts. This day, over 900 inbound contacts. The next day, over 650 inbound contacts, over 80. And then you can see it drops off with continuous follow-up that is occurring. So what I want to point out here, though, is the conversion rate. And you can see that this inbound activity from inbound messages, of calls and text messages, resulted in just shy of 60 qualified leads. Now, actually, it's 61 total qualified leads, with it being 58 individual sellers. It looks like one seller had more than one property to sell. So This is just in a 7 to 10 day campaign with one of our clients actually using our Deal Finders funnel. And I know, Reese, this client is one of the clients where you are working with her to handle all the negotiations and the seller appointments to help to negotiate and then close these deals. So any comments just on maybe some of the calls you've already had for her, maybe some of the calls that you've gone a little, done a little research beforehand, calls you may have on your calendar today or here this weekend?
Yeah, absolutely. So this particular person, we've actually had a lot of great conversations with some sellers, and have, some of them had some unrealistic price points. Some of them, were looking to get rid of a property that, needed a full rehab. Some are trying to get retail for a rental property that, if you bought it cash, it wouldn't cash flow. And we're really working on a couple of different strategies, but we have a lot of really good stuff going on. And guys, for you out there, it's really, I would love for them all to be like a one-call close, be able to get that offer done. But we really have to, hunker down on that follow-up, and that's what we're doing. And each week that we go by and talk to those sellers, we're moving that needle, getting them closer to the finish line, and just helping them realize that, hey, look, this solution is the best solution, whether it is, the cash offer that we're trying to get them to take, or it is, the payment takeover, or, some owner financing or something like that.
And so this is a look again at just one client's campaign. But what I really wanted to do was have a bigger macro discussion on taking a look at over 30 client campaigns. And some people are targeting, let's say, a small list of maybe a couple hundred records. Some people are targeting maybe 1,000 records, 1,000 targeted sellers, and some people might be targeting 5,000 to 10,000 sellers. So it's really a mixed bag. But having a big macro view, gives me and it gives you, Reese, and everyone who's watching, a good look at the type of activity, the type of responses that are coming in on a direct-to-seller marketing campaign. So let's go ahead and pivot and take a look at that macro data. And we're going to start by looking at the last 90 days. And so what we're looking at right now is the last 90 days of activity of about maybe 20 to 30 clients. And we're looking at the activity, similar chart here. We're looking at inbound messages, inbound text messages, inbound calls, and also qualified leads, again, over the last 90 days. And so this is showing this activity daily. So going back to, again, about March the 6th, about 30 days ago at the time of this recording, you can see here that if I just scroll the mouse over, you can see here that the number of inbound messages and inbound messages, texts, or calls, they're accounted for on a daily basis. Some days, maybe 373 inbound messages, 18 inbound calls, and then just continue to see the activity. And this is going to, of course, vary based off of the activity of each individual funnel client, but you're looking at an aggregation right now of about 30 different clients, which is a good sample size. So again, as a reminder, those of you getting on a little bit late, the green is an inbound message, text message. The reddish is an inbound call, and the form is a qualified lead. So if we just scroll down and take a look at the last 90 days of activity from a daily basis, you're looking at over close to 400 qualified leads over that 90-day period for these 25 to 30 clients inside the system. Again, some people are doing a DIY campaign where they're just doing it themselves, targeting maybe 100 different records, maybe targeting 1 or 2 zip codes. You have some people that are doing, higher volume marketing. So if I take a look at this from a week basis, again, looking at the last 90 days over a week kind of simplifies the data, compressing it down to a week. You can see that, that the week activity, this week of March the 9th, you had 826 inbound text messages, 79 inbound calls, 13 qualified leads. You can see that activity, it varies based off the activity of the clients that are running their campaigns. It seems as though, Reese, what we've seen in this week right now, obviously is not completed to aggregate that data, but it seems as though people have really started to kind of pick up their marketing as they see the opportunity taking place, with the pandemic and maybe more sellers being kind of distressed, the market maybe not, necessarily being the outlet for selling their property. So we are seeing more clients actually pick up their marketing, as this spring season, comes to an end, approaching summertime. Any comments on that before we move on to, the next overlook of data?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just to see that there's over 400 forms filled out. I mean, that's 400 sellers that are looking to sell just in that short period of time. So as you guys can see on that graph, that when the market started to shift, it took a few months for people to really start to feel that pain or really start wanting to sell, and the proof is right there in the data. So that's why people are picking up that marketing. They understand what the market is shifting and what it's doing and the opportunity that it's creating.
Absolutely. So what happens once these qualified leads come in? So you have someone that responds to our Deal Finders clients, their marketing, their Are You Selling marketing. And so what happens when the Deal VAs or the Deal Finder actually goes through a seller questionnaire and qualifies that lead as someone potentially motivated? They get that form, which you see here, as Reese said, in the last 90 days with these 25 or so clients, about 400 qualified leads. And so at that point, the sellers raise their hand and say, hey, give me a call back, text me back. I'm interested in selling my property. And that you get a feel for, what their motivation is, the distress they may have, if they're behind on payments, if there's a divorce, if there's an inheritance situation. You get that from your seller questionnaire. But at that point, you then have to, after that initial conversation or two, have to then categorize them, score them, put them in their place in your pipeline in terms of, is there follow-up necessary? Are you sending an offer out? So forth and so on. So now let's pivot and take a look at the data. Again, looking at the last 90 days. And we're going to take a look at the data in terms of the actual scoring of, and so let me pivot here. Got to pivot to a different sheet. And I'll do that here in a second. Okay, I'm going to pivot to a different page. And okay, so let me pull up a different page here. All right, there we go. Okay, so and it's not showing. 1 second. All right, here we go. Okay, sorry about that. So now we're back. So we're now showing the data in terms of the scoring or reporting of that data. So what I want to show here is once you get those qualified leads coming in, what now are they categorized as? Okay, so some people are going to be immediate dead leads, or they'll be dead leads over time. Some people will need immediate follow-up. Some people will not yet be interested. So this scoring or reporting of your data is what's going to allow you to create your KPIs, your key performance indicators, and you'll start to develop metrics on what you deem those percentages to be, out of a targeted list that you start with. So what we're looking at right now, again, over the last 90 days, and we're going back to early March and taking this all the way forward to roughly today's time in June 5th. And what you're looking at here is, again, the sample size of clients in our database, about 25 to 30 investors, that there has been roughly close to 15,000 records that have been scored. And you can see here, most importantly, Reese, that there's been 511 offers sent out, okay? 700, close to 800, qualified lead forms. So there's a lot of opportunity out there. In other words, there were enough sellers that were prospected to. It looks like here, roughly 6% of, that total was deemed to be qualified as motivated. And then, of course, a high percentage of those qualified leads have already had offers sent out to them. And then, of course, they're going to then be scored accordingly. Some people not yet interested. Does that mean that that lead is dead and that it's done? No, it means that you put them in your nurture follow-up, your follow-up text message, your follow-up calls, your follow-up emails, and that seller's motivation may change over time. Time is the ultimate, equalizer, right? So that vacant house where there's no income coming in, they may be able to withstand that for a month or 2 months or 3 months and not yet be interested in your cash offer or your creative, finance offer. But in 30 days and 60 days and 90 days, maybe in 6 months, that not yet interested may turn into a high motivation. So if you just want to care to, Reese, talk about, as I flip this over to now, the similar view, now looking at a week over the last 90 days, just talk about, some of the sellers that you are doing follow-up calls to, maybe someone you talked to maybe a month ago or 2 weeks ago or 2 months ago, and now revisiting those same sellers with new offers.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and when we do that, what we do is when we try to follow up with them, they're like, well, we're 30 days out or we're 90 days out. If someone's like, hey, call me in 90 days, I'm probably going to really call them in 3 weeks or a month, because I really want to check in with them. I want to make sure that, hey, I'm providing some sort of solution, or just really want to see how things are going, right? I don't just pick up the phone and be like, oh, hey, just wanted to see if you can, if you wanted to reconsider my offer. I try to, be there as a solutions provider and understand the situation that they're going through, because some people don't really want to move, and it might take them about 30 days or 90 days to figure out that really is the only solution for them to sell that house. So following up with them, being on the phone with them, being forefront of mind, and being there as a way to educate them on the situation that they're in, they're going to want to work with you. So that's the stuff that we're starting to see now through the follow-up that we've been doing with the clients.
All right, cool. So let's now take a look at the last 30 days. We were looking at the last 90 days. Let's focus in on more really what I think has been investors realizing, hey, there's opportunity here. And a lot of investors that I know in our Deals Meetup network now nationwide, we're seeing people that are experiencing the opportunity. We had our Deals Meetup this past week. We had deals presented from Texas, Oklahoma, from Ohio. And so there's motivations everywhere, and where there's a market shift, there's uncertainty. And so some sellers, may have such a distressed situation where they have to sell maybe on the cheap, or maybe just allow you to come up with whatever creative, flexible terms make sense for that deal. And so as a buyer, if you're, not experienced and haven't been through previous market cycles, you may be thinking, well, the market's coming down, so can I just time the market when it hits the bottom? Well, you never know when it hits the bottom until it starts going up and it hits the peak again. And then you can say, oh yeah, that was the bottom. So you have the opportunity right now, to cash in on this gold rush, that a lot of people missed out on with the 2008 market crash. So you don't try to time the market at its, its dearth, if you will, at its bottom. If you find the right seller that's motivated in this uncertain times, their psychology is different in a market shifting market. That means the seller psychology when the market is really hot is, they're not going to budge. They're going to be very firm in terms of their price and terms. When the market's uncertain and there's a market shift, sellers are going to be more open to caving and acquiescing to your price or your terms. So you just have to do enough prospecting, like we're showing you here, to find the right sellers that are flexible. So it's not timing the market, it's taking advantage of the market opportunity, and then finding the right sellers that have the heightened motivation, that can't wait for the market. They can't wait to put their property on the MLS and go through the typical retail, dog and pony show. You have to find those sellers, and you can find them if you do the proper funnel direct to seller marketing. So what we're showing you right now is a look at the same 25 or 30 investors using our Deal Finders funnel, taking a look at their activity. And you can see here over the last 30 days, we had, let me see here, taking a look. And so it looks like over 300 offers sent in the last 30 days, over 500 qualified leads in the last 30 days. So a lot of good activity that's happening. So why don't we get out of the data and just kind of wrap up with just some, I guess, power thoughts in terms of what people can do in today's market in terms of, getting their marketing going if they're not already currently marketing?
Yeah, so I actually wanted to comment on that a bit. It's like as we're going over this data, guys, it's important to remember that a lot of this is set up as a done for you campaign, where the VAs in the background are actually handling a lot of those text messages back and forth. So a lot of the heavy leg lifting is actually being done for you. And you're able to now just go ahead, focus on the sellers that have raised their hand, filled out that lead form, whether it's 20 or 30 throughout that campaign, and really focus on them, where the VAs have kind of taken care of all the other noise, or the people that might just be like not really serious about receiving an offer. And now you just get to focus on those 20 or 30 that came in that month, and leverage either the deal closer services or start those conversations and follow up on those people yourself. So it makes it really almost like a business in a box for you. That it's text messaging. If you have a 9 to 5, it makes it fairly easy. And as you can see in the data, the results are there.
So Reese, before we go, why don't you actually talk through the experiences, somewhat intimate experiences you have with the funnel clients that decide to use deal closers, your deal closers team, where you get on the three-way calls and essentially, you help to close the deals for them while they learn. So if you could, just share what that experience is like for the investor, new and experienced, in terms of, just what they gained from it by having you lead those negotiations.
Yeah, absolutely. So the one of the biggest things that they're able to kind of see is really the sales tactics that I use, and those sales tactics are not always black and white, because I'm vibing with the seller in a particular situation. I'm asking questions in a certain way, maybe pausing, and once we're done with that call, a lot of times what we'll do is either I'll stay on the call with that deal finder, and we'll just kind of briefly recap, how the conversation went, how I was able to, get this information out or get them to this particular position of wanting to sell. So that way, not only am I helping them negotiate through that, they're actually learning different negotiation tactics, different ways to actually structure deals that they might not have known to use before they started using the deal closer services.
Well, cool. So hopefully that gives you guys a good look. Today was about having you take a look at active direct-to-seller marketing campaigns. Every Friday, 2 p.m., we're going to try to bring you a Deal Finders discussion to talk about leads, deals, negotiations, creative deal structuring strategies, and multiple exit strategies. So I want to thank you for joining our Deal Finders Friday call today. Again, we'll be back with you Deal Finders Friday, 2 p.m. Eastern every Friday. And we hope to have an engaging discussion with deal finders, with deal VAs, with our deal closers, and yours truly, Andre Johnson, the deal engineer. So signing off for today. Have a good weekend, everyone, and we'll be in touch with you soon. Last word, we'd love to welcome you to our Deal Finders Challenge. We're nationwide with our Deal Finders Challenge. Anywhere, USA, you can get started using the Deal Finders funnel to get a direct-to-seller marketing campaign going, and it only costs you $100 to join. So dealfinderschallenge.com. Hopefully, we'll be working with you guys soon. Take care.